Hey, what's going on, guys? It's me again, and here's another update on the 1964 Dodge Custom 80. Today we're taking off the timing chain that's on the engine right now and replacing and upgrading to a double roller timing set. Double rollers provides less friction, but they have another trait which they are more dependable. And I've heard some stories on just here and there that double roller timing sets or timing chains, they go 100,000 miles or more and it's no problem at all. I think I'm going to split this video up into a multiple part series because this one's going to take a long time. But today we're going to be removing a lot of the hardware on the engine just to get to the chain cover. Items that are going to be removed are not the radiator. The radiator is definitely going to stay because it has sketchy, rusty transmission cooler lines, and I'm not about to unbolt those. A couple of years ago I did try to unbolt them and it was just spinning in place, and the other nut wasn't moving. I was literally welded to the other nut. Aside from that, the things that we are going to be removing is the water pump and a lot of the brackets and pulleys, alternator pulleys. Alternator bracket, and the power steering pump also. The power steering pump is going to be dangling just a little bit down. I don't really mind that, but if it's necessary, I will grab some bungee cords and just have some of the hardware just kind of dangling off so that it's not stressing anything, like the hoses and such, like the high pressure hoses that's coming off of the power steering pump. Aside from that, there's not really much to remove. Alright, so I think it comes as no surprise, but you guys will need a catch pan to collect the coolant that's coming out of the radiator. The capacity for these cars is, I believe, the 18 quarts is the one where you have a heater and the AC system or something like that. And then the cars with the non-heater systems is like 16 quarts or something like that. I went to Walmart. It got me one of these. It's a 23. Yeah, I believe it's a 23 quart capacity drain pan, and I think this is going to be pretty good for our application. So I think this thing is going to be working pretty well. I think you can see here. 23 quarts. I think you can see that. Yeah. You can get this at Walmart. It's pretty good for what we're gonna need to do. So put this down there, and let's start draining this radiator, shall we? I'm gonna try giving the petcock, the radiator petcock, a try. Just numerous times I would drain the radiator via the lower radiator hose, but it gets really messy, and I completely miss the. You can completely miss the drain pan if you remove it on the low radiator hose, because fluid just starts gushing out everywhere. So I'm going to try giving the petcock a try. I read somewhere that these Chryslers have like the strange petcock design where you turn it right, so usually you go clockwise, and that'd be tightening it, but in the petcock's case, you actually are loosening it. I think I read that somewhere. It's kind of strange, but yeah, let's go give that a try, and hopefully no stripped or broken petcock bolts. If you're going to be draining the radiator out, remove the cap if the radiator's cold or maybe lukewarm. I think lukewarm and you're fine. The radiator's a little bit warm because I just came back from my last class at college for the ending semester. Yeah, it's pretty warm, but it's not hot. Okay, so leave that cap open so that it can pull a vacuum and it'll drain faster. So pretty much if your car is stock with your stock radiator, especially if it's a big block Mopar, your petcock is going to be located to the driver's side lowest point of the radiator, close to the transmission cooler lines. Let's be sure to open the vent caps on our drain pan, because otherwise I don't think the fluid is going to go into the pan. That's a good idea. There we go. Take these caps somewhere else and put on your safety glasses if you have some. Hopefully this will move. If so, we're going to be quite lucky. Oh, look at that. It moved. And the fluid is starting to come out too. And I guess we'll give it maybe a couple minutes, maybe an hour for it to drain out like that. We're going to go start unbolting probably some belts and some brackets. I suppose we'll start off with the 1/2-inch bolt that secures, or excuse me, 9/16 bolt that goes onto the radiator. No, that's the water pump housing bracket to the why do I keep saying radiator? Alternator, excuse me. This bolt down here, this one right there, that's 9/16, and we'll have to remove another bolt. It's right here. This one's 1/2-inch. Righty tight, lefty loosey. Was about to tighten it right now. Silly me. Let's move on over to the 1/2-inch. The bolt. 1/2-inch bolt that hangs onto the alternator. Oh, that was mighty loose. Should have checked this probably a couple miles ago. This is really loose. And there's your prize. Now we'll go put that somewhere where we can have it organized. Alright, so next we're going to start removing the pulley and bracket that's on the water pump. It's down there. I'll point to it shortly. This bracket here. And it's connected to the water pump housing. And we'll need to remove some belts here and there also. This feels like 9/16. Am I right? Yes. What about this one? 9/16 also, but ooh, that just barely fits on. That barely fits on because the socket is being blocked by this belt down here. It's loose. Now move on to the one below. I suppose we can remove try to remove some of the belts here. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the alternator belts. There, our prize. This belt definitely looks a little bit worn and dry rotted. So I'm probably going to replace that soon, but not now. So here's your pulley, or I mean your belt, excuse me, belt for your water pump. The camera is set up in the most precarious situation. It's wedged between the overflow little tube. It's not very safe, but it'll make do for now. Go. I think that's loose enough. Here's our other belt. Let's not get that mixed up, so I'm just gonna set it over here. And there we go. God, this thing weighs like 500 pounds. That's a cast iron for you, I guess. Be gone, belts. I'll leave these there. Yeah, it looks like we're actually getting places, you know. Actually able to, possible to remove stuff now. We can remove, let's see what we can remove. Well, I suppose we can start removing the fan in some cases. So it turns out that there's a lot of things I want or I plan to remove, and then I got stopped because I need to remove something else. And the manual doesn't really clearly state that, where it says, hey, you got to remove the belt before you remove the bracket, you know, something like that. But in this case, I pretty much need to remove the power steering pump out of the way because it's connected to the water pump housing, and the water pump housing needs to come off. So I guess we'll continue removing the water pump, the power steering pump. And if you guys want to take a look at it, here's what I got. So right behind there, right behind the wire, was this nut right there. And it was connected onto this bolt right here. And then so if I pull this bolt out, the power steering system should just kind of fall to the floor. But I'll kind of have a bungee cord ready to catch the power steering pump and kind of hoist it somewhere in the meantime. We're going to be removing the fan bolts, the fan that connects to the clutch bolts, and then later we're going to be removing the bolts that connect to the water pump pulley. Some of these bolts are coming loose pretty nicely. So I'm going to do pretty much this for the past minute, and we'll see you soon then. So after tussling with the bolts for quite a while, I have managed to remove the fan. Well, it's good to see that the fan clutch that we installed just recently, well, a couple months ago, is still, well, pretty shiny. Aside from, I think some of this little stains is like a leak coming from the radiator or something. I don't know. But yeah, so it looks like removing the blade wasn't really necessary at all. Thank God. But yep, let's go put this over somewhere else and compile it with our parts that we got right now. I was able to remove a lot of the water pump housing bolts and hardware. That's one of the bolts. And was able to lower the power steering pump out of the way. So now you kind of have pretty much a straight shot and look at the water pump, more or less. There's this little interesting thing I did here. So rather than me removing the nipple down here and the hose itself, I just screwed this bolt off just a little bit, and then it's actually pulling itself, well, it's technically pushing itself away from the block itself. The other side is most likely, you know, being caused to warp like that because this side's not leaking yet, so it's coming out like this. See what I mean? So if I unscrew the bolt that's near my, well, in this case, near my wrist, it's being pushed out like this. And then that's opening the crack between the block and the water jacket. So that's why right now, it's so shiny down there on the camera, but the water pump is draining a lot of the water. And slowly this side is starting to leak as well. So I think this side's I believe gasket is coming apart also, so which is kind of good. So I guess I'll just kind of leave it as is, and then as I'm kind of giving enough time, the gasket should kind of separate itself back here. After tussling a bit, you got the water pump out. Condition? Well, as someone would expect when they look inside of a water pump, rusty. And rusty on here also. But the mating surface on this kind of looks clean, and I say kind of because this side is the one where the that gasket fell off, and yeah, I'll have to scrape off a lot of the gunk that's still on there. And this side, the gasket is still, oh, the gasket on this side is gone. It's most likely on the block. But here's our almost there prize. We have to remove the pulley, and then we can remove the timing chain cover. And yeah, the block inside kind of looks pretty gross. Over there kind of looks gross. But hey, we're getting there. We're almost there actually. We just need to pull this off, and I think we're almost home free.